There's a moment, a single, frozen moment, where you realize the person you love, the person you built your life with, sees you entirely differently than you see them. It's not the shouting, not the angry words, but the cold, quiet understanding that hits you like a physical blow. You look at them, and it's like staring at a stranger. You see the truth, laid bare. They knew, all along. They knew the lines they crossed, the boundaries they shattered, and they simply didn't care. Maybe they thought you'd always forgive. Maybe they thought your love was a given, an endless well they could draw from without ever giving back. But love isn't limitless. Trust isn't unbreakable. And when that realization hits, when you understand that the person you trusted most has betrayed that trust not with a single act, but with 1,000 tiny cuts, that's when the real heartbreak begins. And sometimes, the only way to heal is to walk away, even when everyone around you tells you to stay. This is my story. My husband Paul had a close friend, Emily Hill, so close that they shared the same bed, even ate from the same ice cream cone. I told him to keep some distance, but he just sighed, exasperated. Carol, if something were going to happen, it would have happened already. Can we just have a little trust here? Fine. So I turned around and got myself a male best friend. The night Paul stayed out again with Emily, I barely reacted. When he came home around noon, he brought tom yum soup, my favorite Thai dish. For once, he took the initiative to explain, we haven't hung out in a while and we had too much to drink last night. We just got a hotel to crash. Don't worry, nothing happened. I slept on the floor. He made sure to emphasize that last part. After all, the last time this happened we had a huge fight. I accused him of having no sense of boundaries despite being married, and I wouldn't let it go until I confronted Emily directly. Emily was his old neighbor, his childhood friend. Despite being a woman, she was one of the guys, loud, carefree, always treating everyone like an old buddy. I had seen her more than once casually plopping down on their laps, laughing and joking, sharing drinks like it was nothing. At first Paul had the patience to explain, but as time went on he got sick of it. Eventually he snapped, if anything was going to happen between us, it would have happened long before you married me. Then he slammed the door and left. The funny thing was his friends actually told me that's just how Emily is. We all see her as a little sister, and Paul thinks of her as family. You're overthinking it. Little sister? What kind of sister? Had no concept of boundaries. I was miserable. I told Paul that if he didn't learn how to keep his distance, we might as well get a divorce. For a while he did keep his distance, but that only led to Emily making a show of it whenever I was around. Carol, see, I'm not sitting next to Paul. Paul, you should take Carol home early tonight. Don't drink with us too long. We don't want Carol getting mad. Paul isn't the same Paul anymore. He's on a leash now. I wouldn't dare get too close. She always made sure I was within earshot. Naturally, it created an awkward atmosphere, and just like that I became the petty, jealous, unreasonable wife in everyone's eyes. That was when things between Paul and me started to shift, when we started becoming distant. Now, looking at the takeout bag in his hand at what used to be my favorite meal, I felt nothing. Paul must have noticed my coldness because he set the bag down and walked over, wrapping his arms around me. His voice was soft, coaxing. Baby, didn't you want to see that movie? I'm not going to the office today. Let's go watch it together. That movie, I had been looking forward to it for months. When it came out, I asked Paul to go with me. He said he was too busy. A few days later I saw a post on Emily's social media. The picture didn't show their faces, but the hand in the frame, the long fingers, the wedding ring on the left hand was unmistakably Paul's. They were holding movie tickets. Now, catching the faint scent of perfume on his shirt, I pulled away expressionlessly. No need. I went back to packing my suitcase. Carol, his voice sharpened with irritation as he grabbed my wrist. Are you pulling this running away act again? I already told you, Emily, and I aren't what you think I know. I calmly pulled my hand free. You're just friends. Something in my tone must have thrown him off because his expression stiffened. He hesitated, then frowned. Then, what the hell are you making a scene for? I'm going on a business trip. His face darkened. He stared at me for a long time as if trying to figure out whether I was lying, but there was nothing to find. I was calm as I no longer cared who he watched movies with, who he spent the night out with, who he took on dates. None of it mattered anymore. It was clear I wasn't angry, but the calmer I was, the more frustrated Paul became. He seemed convinced I was giving him the silent treatment. Stubbornly trying to make amends, he grabbed my hand, insisting we go to the movies. I watched as he hastily pulled on his jacket, growing more and more impatient. Finally, I couldn't hold back any longer and gently reminded him, there's no need. The movie I wanted to see isn't in theaters anymore. His fingers froze on his phone screen. For a brief moment I saw a flicker of emotions cross his face, too many to decipher. The air between us turned thick, heavy with silence on the table. The soup grew colder by the second. I bent down, placed the last item into my suitcase, and zipped it shut. After that day, Paul suddenly became unusually affectionate while I was away on my trip. He texted me like clockwork morning and night asking about my schedule, wanting to know exactly when I'd be back. I told him on the day of my return. As I walked out of the airport, I spotted his car, a sleek black Bugatti, parked by the curb. The moment he saw me, he quickly got out, striding over as if it was the most natural thing in the world to take my suitcase from me. But when we reached the car, I saw her, Emily, sitting in the passenger seat, legs crossed, arm casually resting on the open window. When she saw me, she flashed a bright, syrupy, sweet smile. "Carol, I'm just hitching a ride. I'll be out of your way soon, promise. Hope you don't mind." Her tone was playful, her expression anything but apologetic. Paul finished loading my suitcase and turned back, his voice a little stiff. She was nearby, so I told her I'd give her a lift. "You don't mind, right?" Before I could respond, Emily leaned further out the window, grinning. "Good thing Paul was around, or I'd be stuck in the middle of nowhere. You have no idea how hard it is to get a cab from my place." She laughed, playfully punching Paul in the chest. "And of course, if Paul ever dares to leave me stranded, I'll just tattle to his parents." She kept talking, giggling as she teased him. Midway through another exaggerated gesture, she suddenly seemed to remember something, hesitating, withdrawing her arm and throwing me a wink. "Carol, you know me and Paul were just used to messing around, nothing more. I swear, ever since our last big fight." Emily Hill had toned down her blatant physical closeness with Paul. Now she made a show of acting like she was holding back, pretending to be cautious, as if I had forced her into it, as if my jealousy and pettiness were the only reasons she had to keep her distance. But if Emily truly cared about boundaries, then why had she started staying out all night with him again? Why were they still going on little one-on-one outings? Why did I catch the subtle challenge in her eyes whenever she looked at me? In the past, this kind of mind game would have set me off, but now I couldn't be bothered. Even when Paul hesitated and offered, "Emily, maybe you should get out," I simply waved him off, opening the back seat door myself. "Doesn't matter, I have a friend who needs a ride too. He'll sit in the back with me." A friend? Paul barely had time to register what I said before a voice called out my name. Turning around, I saw his expression shift. In an instant, a tall, broad-shouldered man dressed in an outrageously flashy outfit was making his way toward me, dragging a suitcase behind him. The moment he caught up, he shot me a pouty look. "Carol, that was so mean of you. I was just grabbing my luggage and poof, you disappeared." Then, with exaggerated dramatics, he latched onto my arm, flashing a charming, playful smile. "I'm all alone in this big city. You have to take care of me." The scene froze, both Paul and Emily in place. Paul was the first to react. He yanked me back, his grip tight. "This is the friend you were talking about." His voice was laced with irritation as his gaze locked onto the man in front of him, brow furrowing instantly. "Yep, that's me," Mark Carter said cheerfully, extending a hand toward Paul. He shook it with the ease of someone who had known him for years, then casually tossed his suitcase into the trunk before sliding into the back seat. "Carol, come on, hop in." He grinned, waving me over. I moved toward the car, only for Paul to block my way. "Carol," he leaned in, his voice lower, his jaw tight. I could almost hear his teeth grinding. "Who the hell is he?" I met his gaze, no flinching. "Just a friend," from the corner of my eye. I caught Emily still comfortably seated in the front, not moving an inch. For once, Paul had no retort. Mark chatted with me the entire ride, which made the front seats feel unusually quiet. Emily wasn't usually the silent type. Anytime we traveled together, she'd be glued to Paul's side, chattering nonstop, reminiscing about their childhood embarrassments, gossiping about mutual friends. Their conversations always flowed so naturally, so effortlessly, and always about things I had no way of joining in on. But today, no matter how many times Emily tried to start a conversation, Paul's responses were short, detached. A drive that should have taken 30 minutes wrapped up in 15. After dropping them off, Paul unexpectedly opened the front passenger door for me. "Sit up here," he said. I glanced at him for a moment, then stayed right where I was. "I'm fine in the back." My voice was calm. "I'm tired. Let's just go home." I closed my eyes, resting my head against the seat. Paul said nothing, but when he shut the door, the sound was louder than usual. He stormed into the house with a dark expression. I had barely taken off my coat when I saw him head straight for the living room, lighting a cigarette. The glow of the flame flickered across his face, casting shifting shadows. "Who is that guy to you?" "Indeed." Paul took a long drag, then crushed the cigarette out in the ashtray, looking up at me. I met his stare, voice neutral. "A friend." His expression darkened further. "A guy that good looking? Just your friend you went on that trip with him, didn't you?" His anger boiled over as he kicked my suitcase. "You spent days together," I snapped, yanking open the suitcase. I met his glare. "Head on." My work partner was either going to be a man or a woman. Mark is easy to get along with and damn good at his job. What's the problem with us being friends? There is a problem. He's a guy. Guys can't be just friends. I let out a short laugh. "Oh, so you can have a female best friend, but I can't have a male one?" That shut him up. I had never seen such a Spectacular range of emotions on Paul's face. Before shock, frustration, disbelief, finally he gritted his teeth and muttered, "Emily is different. We grew up together. If anything was going to happen between us, it would have." I cut him off, meeting his gaze without hesitation. "Mark and I are different too. How about giving each other a little trust?" Paul had no comeback. For days he sulked in silence, and we fell into a cold war. Then over the weekend his parents invited us over for dinner. At the table they quickly picked up on the tension between us. His mother, ever perceptive, gently prodded Paul. "Carol left everything behind to be with you. You'd better be good to her." Paul and I had met in college. I was an only child, and the original plan had always been to move back home after graduation, but for him I stayed. Hearing his mother's words, Paul's expression softened. As we were leaving, he reached for my hand. "Carol, Before he could finish, an arm suddenly slung around his neck. "Paul, it's been a whole week since we last hung out. Let's get together." Emily once again. She had no qualms about draping herself over him in public, but this time Paul didn't smile at her like he usually did. Instead, he quickly shrugged her off, casting an uneasy glance my way. Emily noticed. She turned to me with a saccharine smile, then exaggeratedly stepped back right into the crowd of their mutual friends who had followed behind. "Oh, Carol's here too," she remarked, feigning surprise behind her. The others jumped in. "Paul, you didn't even tell us you were visiting your parents. If Emily hadn't spotted you, you would have just slipped away." "Exactly, and since we're all here, let's go hit the bar." A chorus of voices chimed in, full of excitement. I saw the flicker of temptation in Paul's expression, but unlike before, he hesitated. Instead of instantly agreeing, he turned to me, silently asking for my opinion. His friends noticed too. Even though Paul and I had been married for a while, they had always kept their distance from me. I was no part of their circle, and of course there was Emily. So whenever I was around, the atmosphere felt tense, forced. Paul tested the waters. "How about you come with us?" Almost instantly I felt the mood shift. Emily's reaction was the most telling. Her lips pouted in visible displeasure, her eyes darting to their friends, silently signaling them the entire group was waiting for my answer. They didn't want me to go, but they did want me to let Paul go, so I did. Gently I slipped my hand from his grasp, my voice soft and steady. "You guys go ahead, I'll just take a cab home." Then silence. The tension in the air thickened. For a moment Paul seemed torn, relieved yet guilty all at once. "I'll be home early," he promised, as if that would somehow make up for it. I simply smiled. Then without another word I turned and walked out of the yard. As I stepped away, someone muttered behind me, "Damn, did Carol finally change? Not jealous of Emily anymore. She's actually letting Paul go out with us." 1 a.m. Paul hadn't come home. I didn't ask, as I had plans of my own. Mark and I, along with a few friends, hit up the busiest bar in town. The music pounded against my eardrums, a relentless beat that made it easy to forget everything else. Our group settled into a spacious booth, and before long we were lost in the energy of the night. A few rounds in, someone beside me suddenly got excited, pointed across the room. "Holy, look at that, it's getting wild over there." At those words, everyone immediately turned their heads. Curiosity piqued, I turned too, and saw them. Paul's group, 7 guys, 1 girl. The table was covered in empty bottles, a chaotic mess of drinks and half-eaten appetizers. Paul sat at the head of the group, his face obscured by distance, his head bowed as he stared at his phone. That was until Emily snatched it from his hands. Then in one smooth motion she climbed onto his lap, straddling him with effortless ease, one arm draped around his neck, the other lifting a bottle of liquor in the air. No one batted an eye. They cheered, laughed. "Them on, looks like they're playing truth or dare, drinking mouth to mouth. That chick is insane. Just now she got dared to take off her bra, and she actually did it. Then she hung it around some dude's neck. Absolutely nuts." Everyone around me was laughing. I wasn't, as I saw it Paul putting his phone down, no longer distracted. Paul amidst the raucous cheers, not pushing Emily away. Paul letting Emily's lips full of liquor lean down to press her mouth against his. Disgust clenched in my stomach. It was repulsive, utterly revolting. Emily never got the chance to finish that drunken little game. As I walked up to them and slapped them both hard, the entire bar went silent. Paul's so-called brotherhood quickly jumped in, laughing awkwardly, trying to smooth things over. "Come on, it was just a joke." Emily's eyes welling up like some wounded damsel pouted, "It was just a game." I didn't spare her a glance. Instead I plucked that bra she'd so proudly draped over another man and flung it straight into her face. Then without looking back I turned and walked away. "You like playing games?" My voice carried through the stunned silence. "Then wait until Paul and I are divorced. You'll have all the time in the world." I meant it, because I was done, but Paul wasn't. He chased me all the way home. "Baby, come on, it was just a game. Emily messes around with all of us. It's just how she is. We don't even think of her as a woman," he faltered when I stopped packing, my expression unreadable. Sensing he was losing ground, he quickly backtracked. Okay, look, you got mad, I get it, but I swear I'll stop. I'll never fool around with them again." Then, as if realizing his desperation, his tone turned sharp, defensive. "Carol, you're not exactly innocent either. You went to a bar with a bunch of guys you didn't see me throwing a fit over that. The more he tried to pacify me, the more impatient he got until finally he snapped, grabbing his hair in frustration, his voice rising in a yell. I didn't flinch. I had already packed most of my things, not everything. I'd have to come back for the rest later, but every passing second in this house made my skin crawl. Move, I said flatly. Paul stood in front of me, blocking my way, his arms tense, his breath reeking of alcohol. I met his gaze, my voice eerily calm. Real heartbreak doesn't come with screaming matches. Looks exactly like this when everything loses its meaning. Paul hesitated for the first time. He looked afraid, his broad frame stiffened, his face already flushed with alcohol darkened with frustration. You're really making this a big deal, huh? His voice dropped into a growl. I let out a quiet laugh. Paul, would you be okay with me sitting on Mark's lap like that? His whole body went rigid. I stepped closer, pressing in. You weren't okay with us sitting next to each other in the back seat. You sulked for days. So tell me, what gives you the right to expect me to turn a blind eye to you and Emily? That's different, Paul blurted out. How? I'm a man. You're a woman. No matter what I do, no one can take advantage of me. The moment those words left his mouth, something inside me snapped. I had thought, maybe he was just clueless, that he genuinely didn't understand boundaries. But no. He knew. They all knew. I stared at him, my hands trembling. Disbelief. Disgust. So you knew all along. You knew Emily was out of line. You knew your so-called friendship crossed boundaries. You just didn't care. Because as long as she was a woman, it felt good to let her cling to you, stroke your ego, while you pretended it was nothing. Paul's face twisted. For the first time, he couldn't argue back. Like I had ripped away the last flimsy excuse he'd been clinging to. His jaw clenched. His eyes darted away. Guilty. I smiled. Mark, I said lightly. I brought him along on purpose, to piss you off. Paul's head snapped back to me, hope flickering in his eyes. Then I crushed it. At first, I thought you just didn't understand boundaries. That if you saw it from my perspective, you'd finally get it. I exhaled slowly. But I was wrong. You do understand. You just enjoyed it. I shoved him. Paul stumbled back, crashing onto the floor, eyes wide in shock. I didn't blink. I didn't look at him again. I reached for my suitcase. And then, with a voice devoid of warmth, I ended it. Paul, let's get a divorce. Because the longer I stay with you, the more disgusted I'll be. I had made up my mind. But Paul refused to accept it. He even brought my parents into it, hoping they'd convince me to stay. Paul had always left a good impression, smart, handsome, ambitious. He started his own company right out of college, and when we got married, he showed my parents nothing but sincerity. So of course, they sided with him. At first. But that changed fast. Then came the bar incident. Someone had recorded it. The video went viral overnight. Suddenly, the entire internet knew the story, the wife who slapped the mistress feeding liquor to her husband while straddling his lap. The backlash was relentless. The comments brutal, this woman is shameless. She knows he's married and still clings to him. She clings to everyone. Did you see her bra? She literally threw it on another guy's neck. This man is disgusting. No respect for his wife. At first, Emily fought back, arguing with commenters, calling them jealous and toxic, accusing them of having dirty minds. She insisted it was just harmless friendship. Childhood buddies messing around. No one bought it. The internet dug deeper. Photos, captions, posts, Emily had documented everything. Her wearing their clothes. Sleeping in their beds. Sharing drinks, ice cream. Holding hands, fingers intertwined. And in every post, her words practically dripped with pride. Emily was trending. Paul was trending. Their entire friend group became a laughingstock. Every guy with a girlfriend got dumped. Every single guy? No woman wanted to go near them. Someone even gave them a nickname, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. One viral comment read, "This is the worst PR disaster for Snow White in history." I watched it all unfold, and I'd be lying if I said I didn't enjoy it. Emily had been a tumor in my marriage, growing unchecked while Paul refused to acknowledge it. No. The tumor had turned on him. And I had already walked away. Of course, the scandal didn't last. Paul and his friends weren't just rich, they were connected. Within days, the negative press vanished. Emily's social media? Wiped clean. Then, Paul's parents showed up at my door. Desperate. They begged me to see him. "He's in the hospital," his mother said, trembling. "Drinking too much. The whole time, he's been calling your name. Carol, I know he messed up. But please, for the sake of your marriage, just go see him." I could have refused. But I didn't. When I arrived, Paul looked awful. Hollow. A shell of himself. But the moment he saw me, something flickered, hope. He tried to sit up. I gently stopped him. "When are you getting discharged?" I asked. His eyes brightened. "Carol, does this mean you'll forgive me?" "I swear, I'll never make the same mistakes again. Just give me one more chance. I'll cut Emily off completely, I swear." I shattered his delusion with one sentence, "The moment you're discharged, we finalize the divorce." The words hit him like a physical blow. Pain twisted his features. Beads of sweat rolled down his temples. "Carol, I didn't cheat on you. You know that. It was just messing around, that's all." He was crying now. Paul, the golden boy. The one women always chased. Prideful. Confident. Untouchable. Reduced to this. Begging. I should have felt something. I didn't. I just shook my head. "Paul, accept reality. We're not getting back together." That cut deeper than anything else. He looked shattered. Confused. Desperate. "Emily came onto us," he yelled. "I didn't push her away, but I didn't cheat. Why can't you let this go?" His voice was so loud, it drew attention. Our parents rushed in. The room was suddenly crowded. Chaotic. Right on cue, his parents started pleading. "Yes, Paul made mistakes, but the real problem is Emily. Paul always saw her as a sister. You and Paul have come so far. You love each other. Do you really want to throw it all away? Carol, listen, if you stay, everything will be yours. The house. The cars. The company. The savings. All in your name. And if Paul ever does this again, he'll leave with nothing." My parents hesitated. They were listening. My mother pulled me aside, whispering, "Carol, maybe you should give him one more chance." Their faces had softened. Paul had wormed his way back into their favor. He was winning them over. In the end, I agreed to give Paul one last chance. If he could go one full month without any contact with Emily, I would reconsider the divorce. Both our parents were present when I made the offer. Paul's face lit up. He agreed without hesitation, like it was the easiest thing in the world. Our families breathed a sigh of relief, believing the crisis had been averted. But only I knew this was a game he was destined to lose. Paul blocked Emily, despite her crying, pleading, and trying everything to get back in touch. He ignored her. He really did cut her off. He unfollowed their entire friend group, wiped his social media clean, and even started showing me his phone every day, eager to prove he was keeping his word. Mark, on the other hand, was baffled. "Carol, you're not actually getting back with your ex, are you?" He leaned in, all curiosity. He had spent those days on our trip carefully analyzing my situation, even coming up with a solution, use his own logic against him. Let Paul experience firsthand what it felt like to be on the other side. And it had worked. But now, I had seen Paul clearly for who he was. Our problem had never been Emily. I met Mark's gaze, smiling. "I've already made up my mind." The divorce is happening. This deal is just so everyone else can finally see it for themselves. Paul's real test came soon enough, Emily's birthday. As the only girl in their brotherhood, her birthday was a sacred event. Every year without fail, the entire group had to show up. No exceptions. I chose that day to leave the city on purpose, not out of spite, but because I didn't want Paul to come looking for me. I had a flight to catch. Mark drove me to the airport. A new city awaited me. A new job. A new life. "You're really going through with this?" Mark asked, slowing the car down as if hoping I'd reconsider. I nodded. "Mark, I was me before I was anyone's wife." He was quiet for a moment, then exhaled, finally accepting my decision. "As your friend, I support you. And as a man, I understand why you're leaving him." The next day, Paul finally realized something was wrong, at Emily's birthday party. He had drunk himself into a stupor, silenced his phone, and ignored the dozens of missed calls from Mark. It wasn't until he woke up, head pounding, that he saw the flood of notifications on his screen. His stomach twisted. A creeping dread clawed its way up his spine. Hard hammering, he immediately called back. Mark picked up, his tone cold. "Your wife's gone, Paul. Hope you and Emily had a great birthday." Paul froze. His entire body went rigid before he shot upright in bed, fingers tightening around his phone so hard he nearly dropped it. "Where did she go?" His voice was hoarse, barely above a whisper. But there was only one thought in his mind: I have to find her. Mark let out a short, humorless laugh. "Somewhere you'll never find her." Then, after a pause, he added mockingly, "You couldn't even last a month, Paul. What the hell are you still hoping for?" And with that, the call cut off. Paul sat there, staring blankly at the darkened screen, his hands trembling. On my 6th day in the new city, Mark forwarded me a message. "Paul has been calling everyone, even your old company, desperate to find out where you went." I replied simply, "Ignore him." Mark sent back an exasperated emoji. "He's really panicking." I chuckled to myself and shut off my phone. His panic came too late. If he had truly cared, why hadn't he cherished me when he had the chance? If he had truly understood, why did it take me leaving for him to realize what I meant to him? I had no interest in hearing his excuses. No curiosity about his regrets. Instead, I focused on my new life. I found a new job. Rented a cozy apartment with floor-to-ceiling windows. Learned to cook for myself. Commuted to work alone. Went to the movies alone. Was it lonely? Maybe a little. But for the first time in a long time, I was happier than I ever had been in that suffocating marriage. Paul finally found my new number. He sent a message, "Carol, can we meet?" I stared at the screen for a long time. Then I locked my phone without replying. Meet for what? To listen to his regrets? To watch him look pitiful and promise, once again, that he'd change? There was a time I might have softened. But now, I just felt exhausted. Mark asked me, "You really don't want to give him another chance?" I already did, I sighed. He just didn't treasure it. This marriage had never been just my battle. If he had truly loved me, why did he only start fighting for us after I was gone? Paul's messages became less frequent. Sometimes I'd get a short text, "I know I messed up," or "I'm working on myself." I never replied. Instead, I focused on building my own life. Spent weekends picnicking with coworkers. Every day was full. Free. Mine. And one day, I realized, I no longer thought about Paul. No longer felt that hollow ache at night. No longer longed for something I had already let go. I had learned to move on. But Paul. One day, a package arrived. Inside was a set of divorce papers. Tucked between the pages was a note in his familiar handwriting, "Carol, I finally understand. You were never the person I thought would always wait for me. You deserve a better life. Sign it. Your freedom should be yours to decide." I sat there, staring at those words. Then after a long moment, I picked up a pen and signed my name. The day our divorce was finalized, I didn't cry. I felt no grief. No sense of loss. I simply went home, made myself a cup of coffee, and stood on the balcony watching the city lights flicker on, one by one. The night air was soft. The breeze gentle, carrying away every last trace of the past. And in that moment, I knew I had finally stepped out of the past and into my own future. As for Paul, whether he regretted it or not, I no longer cared.
I met Carol in college, and from the start, she was different. Focused, sharp, elegant in a quiet way. I liked that about her. She wasn't loud like Emily, my childhood friend, who always filled the room with her laugh and her stories. Carol had a way of making you feel calm. When we got married, I thought I had the best of both worlds, a wife who grounded me, and a friend who reminded me of where I came from. Emily and I had known each other forever. We grew up side by side, playing in each other's houses, riding bikes, falling off monkey bars. She was the wild one, the one who dared me to climb roofs and sneak into the movies. I saw her as a little sister, really. So when Carol voiced concern about how close Emily and I were, I didn't take it seriously. To me, there was never a question of lines being crossed. We were just always like this. I didn't understand what Carol meant when she said Emily crossed boundaries. She'd plop into laps, share drinks, tease us like she always had. That's just Emily. She didn't mean anything by it. I kept telling Carol, if anything was going to happen, it would have happened long before she came into the picture. But then Carol got a male friend. I didn't think much of it until I noticed how often they talked. How she smiled at her phone. When I confronted her about it, she threw my words back at me, we're just friends. One day I came home after crashing at a hotel with Emily. We drank too much, and instead of driving, we stayed over. I told Carol the truth, I slept on the floor. But she didn't react. Not in anger, not in sadness. She just nodded. Cold. That silence cut deeper than any argument. I tried to make up for it. I brought her soup, suggested we finally go see that movie she'd wanted to watch. But she reminded me it was no longer in theaters. I had taken Emily instead. She never said it outright, but I saw it in her eyes. The shift. The detachment. Things changed after that. She left on a business trip, and for the first time, I felt something unfamiliar, fear. That maybe I was losing her. So I tried. I texted her daily, asked about her flights, her hotel. When she landed, I picked her up, but Emily was with me. She needed a ride. Carol didn't make a scene. She got in the back seat, calm, cold. Said she had a friend coming, too. And when that guy, Mark, showed up, loud, flashy, throwing his arm around her like they'd known each other forever, something inside me snapped. I couldn't hide the jealousy. I demanded to know who he was. She looked me in the eye and said, a friend. The way I always said it about Emily. The hypocrisy hit me like a punch. We went home in silence. Later, I confronted her. Accused her of going on a trip with another man. She threw it back at me, asked why it was okay for me and Emily but not for her and Mark. I had no answer. Not one that sounded fair. The Cold War between us stretched. My parents invited us over. Carol didn't say much, but my mom noticed something was off. She told me to cherish her, that she gave up everything to be with me. And I remembered she had. Her home, her plans, her city. Then Emily showed up again, clinging to me like always. But this time, I stepped away. I didn't laugh it off. I saw the flicker in Carol's eyes, the pain she wouldn't show. That night, when my friends invited us out, I looked to Carol. She said, "Go ahead." I knew what she meant. I also knew what I was choosing. I went. Emily got drunk. She climbed into my lap, poured liquor into her mouth and tried to kiss me. Everyone cheered. No one stopped her. Not even me. Until Carol showed up and slapped us both. The silence that followed was deafening. She walked out without looking back. I chased her home. Tried to explain that it was just a game. That Emily didn't mean anything. That she messed around like this with all of us. Carol didn't yell. She packed. She looked me in the eye and said the calmest words I'd ever heard, "Let's get a divorce." I tried everything. Brought her parents into it. Showed up at her door. Begged. Promised to change. My parents begged her too. We made a deal, no contact with Emily for a month, and she'd reconsider. I blocked Emily. Cut off all my friends. Changed my routines. Showed Carol my phone every day. But I could feel it, she was already gone. She smiled less. Laughed even less. And then came Emily's birthday. I drank too much, ignored my phone, told myself one night wouldn't matter. When I woke up, Mark had left a message, "Your wife's gone." Panic. Fear. Regret. I tried calling. Everyone. No one answered. Eventually, I found her number. Texted her. Begged to meet. She never replied. But I kept trying. I worked on myself. Went to therapy. Stopped drinking. Started journaling. Every message I sent her was honest. Then one day, I knew what I had to do. I mailed her the divorce papers. Added a note, "You deserve a better life. Sign it. Your freedom should be yours." She did. Now I sit alone in our empty apartment, wondering how I lost the best thing that ever happened to me. And knowing the answer, I never treated her like she was irreplaceable. Until she was gone.
10 years. 10 years since I walked away from a life that wasn't mine, and into one that was. Sometimes, I still think back to that time, to the woman I was, and I barely recognize her. She was strong, yes, but she was also lost, searching for a love that was never truly there. Today, I look around, and I see a life painted in vibrant colors. My apartment, no longer a temporary space, but a home filled with laughter and the scent of freshly baked bread. My photography, once a hobby, now a fulfilling career, capturing moments of joy for others. Mark, who stood by me then, stands beside me still, not just as a friend, but as a partner, a confidant, a love that's real, honest, and built on mutual respect. We have a daughter now, a bright, curious little girl who fills our days with endless wonder. I watch her play, and I think, this is what happiness feels like. This is what a good life looks like. It's not about grand gestures or material possessions, it's about the quiet moments, the shared smiles, the unwavering support. Paul? I haven't seen him in years. I heard through mutual acquaintances that he eventually moved on, started a new family. I don't harbor any ill will. We were two people who simply weren't meant to be. And that's okay. Some chapters end so new ones can begin. I learned that I am enough. That I don't need someone else to complete me. I am whole, I am happy, and I am free. And that, more than anything, is the life I chose, the life I built, and the life I'm grateful for every single day.